Russia's remote Ural Mountains. 9 students died here under mysterious circumstances, creating a mystery so bizarre it endures over half a century later. Now, Keith and Algimantas move on to a reconstruction of where the first 2 bodies were originally found, 1 mile down the hill from the tent.
Well, this is the cedar tree where the first 2 bodies were found. They weren't wearing much. They had very little on.
In the declassified report, the original investigators stated that there was evidence the 2 men had built a fire at the edge of a wood, rejecting the shelter offered by the trees. Kuras is surprised by what appears to be a basic mistake.
The wind would be blowing the heat away instantly, so I don't think that they could heat themselves by this kind of fireplace.
It doesn't seem to make sense that these 2 experienced outdoorsmen would build a fire in such an exposed spot.
I would choose more closed location, deeper in the woods.
Could they have been afraid that whatever drove them from the tent was now in the woods? Were they being hunted by a wild animal like a bear?
The autopsies didn't reveal any bite marks or scratches. If a bear had attacked, one would expect large chunks of the body to be removed, possibly arms removed, legs, but there was nothing consistent with an attack by a wild animal like that.
In fact, the official post-mortem investigation revealed hypothermia as the cause of Doroshenko and Krivonishenko's deaths. By staying out of the woods, perhaps they'd avoided a predator, but died from the extreme cold.
Kuras, could you stop there now and mark out Igor Dyatlov?
The official post-mortem report revealed chilling details of the violent deaths met by Dyatlov, Slobodin, and Kolmogrova.
Igor Dyatlov was found with injuries to his right fist, as if he'd been involved in a fist fight, as if he'd been punching somebody or something.
Who or what could he have been fighting?
Kuras, could you mark out the body now for Rustam Slobodin?
Copy, over.
He was found with fist injuries, which were consistent with a fist fight. He was also found with a serious skull fracture to this part of his head. Kuras, could you spray out the marking now for Zina's body, please? There was blood around her face, and her mouth, and her nose.
The 3 bodies lay in a straight line and appeared to have been fighting hard before they died. It was not until 3 months later, in early May, when the snow had partially melted, that the search parties could resume looking for them.
Решили искать вниз по ручью, по оврагу щупами. Значит, разрыли, там не пришлось много копать. Это был уже тонкий снег, тонкий слой снега был, и тела находились в воде.
Deep under the snow, they found the last 4 bodies. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, Alexander Kolevatov, Alexander Zolotaryov, and Ludmila Dubinina. All the hikers had now been found, but the mystery of what killed them was far from over. They lay together a mile from the tent. The bodies, marked by poles in this forensically reconstructed scene, were discovered in a stream flowing with meltwater. But why were they so far from their tent and their supplies? Whatever happened to them back in 1959, these last 4 didn't succumb to hypothermia. They died from something much more sinister.
Мы получили в свое распоряжение это уголовное дело для ознакомления через 25 лет. Мы обратили внимание, что все студенты были сильно травмированы. У них были переломаны ребра, у них были раздавленные черепные коробки, отсутствовали глазные яблоки.
The four had died from horrific internal injuries so severe they have been likened to those sustained in a car crash. Worst of all were the injuries sustained by 21-year-old Ludmila. When the medical examiners looked inside her mouth, they found her tongue was missing.
There was a lot of blood found in her stomach, which implies that she was still alive when the tongue was removed.
What could be so powerful it could crush the three men, and yet sufficiently dexterous to remove Ludmila's tongue? For over 50 years, these terrible deaths have remained unexplained. And then, while making this film, a startling piece of evidence emerged that cast a whole new light onto the investigation. A photograph recovered from the camera of one of the students, for 50 years overlooked. It shows a strange tall creature lurking in the woods, looking over to where the students must have been. But what is it?
It's as if this figure is watching the group. Looks fairly powerfully built. There's almost a simian-like aspect to it because of this crouching, predatory stance it's taking. It's very, very interesting. It's the first time I've seen it. Very, very unusual.
Could they have photographed someone or something that was pursuing them? Or could the photo be some kind of hoax, made to look as if it's a Yeti-like creature? Jacqueline Pastel is a forensic investigator specializing in still image analysis.
The lighting conditions across this image appears to be coming from the back right-hand side. The figure in the middle, it's darker on the left, looking at that, that's where the shadow is forming from that figure. So that's consistent with the rest of the photograph. I think it's real. I think it is a real photograph.
Does this photograph offer evidence that the 9 young students were being stalked by a Yeti? Does it finally explain the mystery of their deaths?
Something terrifying and unexplained happened that night, and this photograph may be the strongest clue as to what it was.
To this day, the Dyatlov incident remains unexplained.